Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to the world of V-Gaming Junkie News. The dross was melted away from the iron at temperatures exceeding 1900 degrees Celsius, so there's nothing but pure gaming-related meatiness. It is all about the electronic good stuff as we dive deep into all that's new in the various interactive virtual worlds. So apparently the PS5 has, or at least had as of Monday, a quirk of installing games twice. Specifically, it could play both PS4 versions of games via backwards compatibility and PS5 specific versions. This means it's actually possible to install two versions of the same game by accident, apparently especially if you use the mobile app to do it. Just something to keep aware of if you don't want to burn space in the hard drive unnecessarily. Unless you're Digital Foundry and you do comparisons, you probably don't need the lesser PS4 version. And so a developer of Doom Eternal made a remake of an Aryan Pokemon. No, it's not anything too crazy. Basically, Mark Diaz decided to make a stylized low-poly version of Route 1 from the original Pokemon games. In his own words, he took some liberties to make visually distinct locations. You can see things like a little tent setup, a few tree logs, and a bit of fencing. With any luck, this might just be one fan-made project that Nintendo doesn't instantly seek to C&D. All joking aside, it looks pretty nice. It reminds me of the low-poly kind of indie games you see floating around in places. So the Mortal Kombat movie is going to water down the violence compared to the video games. Todd Garner, the movie's director, says it's going to be faithful to the IP but grounded and more realistic. Because that's what people experience Mortal Kombat for, grounded realism. While it apparently doesn't skimp on the blood, it would seem they're not going to go full-on gore like the games are heavily known for. You ask me, it seems a little silly trying to make something grounded and deep with a Mortal Kombat license. Kinda reminds me when people tried to do that with Doom, another 90s edgy violent game, and we got two floppers with the second one honestly a soul-crushingly boring flopper. Doesn't help that Garner says it's going to be like a G-rated movie in comparison, and even that it'll be like Bambi in comparison. That's not something you really want to invoke when you're talking about Mortal Kombat. Now, I'm not entirely pessimistic. I think it has a chance to be good, but I'm not exactly holding my breath here. Honestly, on the whole, video games don't really need to be adapted into movies anymore, since we've long since passed the point of video games being capable in the CGI department, even to the point of many games being movies with a light amount of interaction. Now, I'm not saying for sure it's going to be bad, I'm just saying this is a bit of a bad sign, but we shall wait and see. So the Taiwanese horror game Devotion is now available for sale again. It was pulled from Steam and GOG after the big controversial poster in-game saying Xi Jinping Winnie the Pooh moron was discovered. This is probably a foreign concept for us in the United States since we're freely allowed to mock our politicians. In China, however, the chairman made one of the weakest moves I've seen in any current world leader and banned Winnie the Pooh from the country because people were comparing the two. Well, I can at least agree on one thing, the comparison is false because Winnie the Pooh is a friendly guy who probably wouldn't seek to ban a cartoon character just out of offense. Red Candle Games took it upon themselves to self-host the game, so thankfully you're able to play it now if you really want to. I'm guessing the joke was removed because we can't go offending the ruler of a country with meany words now, can we? So 2K has signed a deal with Tiger Woods, leading Games Radar to speculate that this could lead to a Tiger Woods PGA Tour 2K22. This is a first for me as I haven't really heard anything major about Tiger Woods since back in 2013 when he hardcore cheated on his wife. Now, I'm obviously not saying that to beat up on the guy, although apparently sleeping with over 100 women is a bit too far, but I'm also not someone who keeps up on golf, so that's really the last time I heard from him. Apparently he was in a car crash recently too, but thankfully he only suffered leg injuries and is back home with his family. Whether or not this leads to more PGA Tour games, we'll have to wait and see. Either way, this is certainly excellent news for fans of golf-based video games. Personally, I'm more of a fan of What the Golf and Wii Sports, but different strokes for different folks, eh? Literally! So local modder Wim Bytart decides to remake BioShock into virtual reality. That's right, this ambitious man is actually taking the Half-Life Alyx engine and using that to make an improvised remake of BioShock. It's only a shame I don't have a VR headset. I could probably use the mod I got to decouple it from VR, but at that point you may as well play the original BioShock. For those of you fortunate enough to have one though, this is certainly the kind of game to benefit from both a graphics uplift and a little VR. It's probably one of the most beautifully atmospheric games ever made. I still use the commercial for the first one as a primary argument that video games are a genuine form of art. I'm very much looking forward to seeing more of this one and wish Bytart the best in his endeavors. And so Super Nintendo World has finally opened up in Universal Studios of Japan. Yeah, I know, should be obvious by now since the Orlando one isn't going to see the light of day until 2025, but at least it's open in some form. Apparently, Shigeru Miyamoto himself even made a guest appearance to partake in the celebrations. Honestly, with all the theme park news, mostly Disney making some very stupid decisions in their parks, Super Nintendo World is probably the one thing in that space to actually make me excited. Nintendo is a company that I still mostly respect, and I certainly can respect a little Mario even if I prefer Zelda and Metroid. You can tell it was a labor of love by fans of Mario. From top to bottom, the Mario themes are very strong. It almost looks like walking through an honest-to-God level of Mario, and I look forward to seeing developments on the Orlando edition since it's slightly closer to me than the Japanese one. And as always, from the page of Games Radar, it's time for the next week's round of release dates. Fall Guys Season 4 for PC and PS4 and Vaporum Lockdown for Switch kick things off on the 22nd. The 23rd sees Hunting Simulator 2, a Rangers Life DLC for PC, Xbox, and PlayStation new and old, Overcooked All You Can Eat for the Old Band of Four, and Story of Seasons Pioneers of Olive Town for Switch. The 24th just has Paradise Lost for PC, PS4, and X1. I should also note that I'll be saying everything to refer to PC, PS4, PS5, X1, Series X, and Switch. With that in mind, the 25th begins with Black Legend for Everything, Dark Complete Edition for PS5 and Series X, and El Hijo, a Wild West tale for PS4, X1, and Switch. Evil Inside for both PlayStations, Immortals, Phoenix Rising, Myths of the Eastern Realm DLC for Everything Plus Stadia, and Yakuza 6 for PC round out the 25th. The 26th is a particularly big one, starting with Balan Wonderworld for Everything and Crash Bandicoot 4 for PC. Then there's Genesis Noir for PC, X1, and Switch, It Takes Two for PC, X1, and PS4, and Monster Hunter Rise for Switch. Finally, Story of Seasons Pioneers of Olive Town for Switch in Europe, Terminator Resistance Enhanced for PS5, and Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 for PS5 and Series X. This week's epic freebie until next Thursday is The Fallen, a game that very much aesthetically reminds me of Soma, but it's a side-scroller. And as always, that rounds out this news week. I hope you all enjoyed and were well enough informed. However, next week I won't be doing a news program. Instead, I'll be doing a video game review like I used to, but with a Kinect motion capture integrated. It will, of course, be Dark Souls 3, the game I just recently completed. As always, I Let's Play every single day, 10 a.m. and 2 p.m., live stream Mondays and Fridays unless otherwise specified at 4:30 p.m., and now I'll be doing a review at Sunday at 6 p.m. That's Eastern Standard Time, but you can always subscribe and use Thunderbolt super effectively on that bell icon if you don't want to worry about keeping track of time zones. A like is always appreciated for those algorithms, but I just hope you genuinely liked it, and that is it for now. Thank you so much for tuning in with me. Spread the video around like the beautiful legacy of Dark Souls, and I'll see you next time. Peace out, have a good one, and I'll see you next week.